Hey, you're tuned in to Live at 5. And before we jump into today's guest, I just want to remind you that this show is only possible because of the generosity and support of amazing people like you. Continue to support us by subscribing to this YouTube channel, clicking the link to donations and merchandise in the bio below, and by spreading the word about our shows. Thanks again, and enjoy. We're live at 5 today, this beautiful Saturday in London, with another archive at 5. We hope you enjoyed yesterday's performance by Smitty's Big Four, and that was kind of it was from the vault of Smitty's past. When we say the vault, we mean the drawer of my desk that I choose not to go into because it's so messy. We're joined today, as always, by Darcy O'Connor over in Clapton. How are you, Darce?
Hi, G. I'm doing well, man. I'm sipping on a Campari soda, emulating the summertime that we're missing right now, or the springtime, I should say. And would love to know what everyone else is sipping on this lovely Saturday afternoon. G, what have we got for today?
Well, we have the second half of that early Smitty's Big Four concert from the bar, and it was fun going back and watching the one from last night because I hadn't seen the whole thing. I just found it and kind of sent it over to Darcy and said, well, this should be our first one because it's kind of a mixed bag of, you know, what used to happen at the bar back in the day, and it was really fun to watch, you know, just the rapport of everyone, and you know, that was about 4 years ago, and we've done so much since then, so many records and so much new music that it was kind of cool to see where we were at. There are a few funnier moments in this second half, and because I went back and watched that after I'd seen the first half, and it's just testament to the way that the nights always evolved at Smitty's. You know, we would get there and everybody would kind of be a little bit edgy from the commute because it always, you know, I mean, the funny thing about Smitty's is it's not close to anywhere. It doesn't matter where you live unless you live above it. And so everybody would kind of relax in, and by the time we got to the second set, people would just be ready to have fun. So I think this second set has that.
Yeah, we see that right from the get-go. There's a bit of banter. I mean, you guys talk about, as the audience will see, you guys will see very shortly, that you'd been playing music all day trying to get something right for your bigger band, which, you know, eventually became Kansas Smitty's, or was Kansas Smitty's at that point. What kind of stuff around early 2016 would you have been jamming on? And was that for a gig, or was it a rehearsal?
You know, I actually have no idea. I really can't remember at all. I mean, it could have been, let's see, 2016. Could have been the live. Could have been the second. It would have been the second, because the first record was before the bar. Could have been the live album at Ronnie's. But actually, coincidentally, I just saw that Bill Lawrence has a Live at Ronnie Scott's album out that's really good.
Oh, cool.
And I remembered the story that they wouldn't let Adrian, who's going to be our guest on Monday, right?
Yeah.
Adrian, they wouldn't let Adrian put Live at Ronnie Scott's on his quartet album unless he paid 10 grand, 10,000 pounds.
Just for the name.
Just for the name, which I thought was interesting, you know, always value your brand. And of course, Adrian said, oh yeah, well, I can pay you. You want cash? It's like, I'll pay you in cash. And I just can imagine the look on Simon's face, just thinking, oh my God, this guy's really going to do it. You know, he's going to come to the club with a briefcase of, you know, 10 grand, just like, you know, it was like 1975 and Soho was what it used to be. But anyway, yeah, I guess we would have been getting ready for that. And Adrian would have just been getting into the band, which is a great period in Kansas Smitty's. And that was, you know, we heard that live Bajinhos a couple of days back with the whole band. So yeah,
Pedro would have been on the drums at that point.
Yeah. I don't think Will was even born yet in 2015. Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, cool. So I think, you know what, I think we should just jump straight into the music today. It's a little bit longer than yesterday's slice of the performance. It's about half an hour, so let's cruise right into that. Everyone at home, grab a drink, pump up the volume on your TV, wind down, enjoy your Saturday afternoon, and we'll be back in about half an hour to have a little bit more of a discussion around some of the repertoire that was played at this show and sort of dive into some more of that early 20th century pop music chat that we were into yesterday. So what's the first tune in this set, Giacomo?
The first tune on this one is Sidney Bechet's Passport to Paradise. And I believe he did write this one. And it's one of my favorite tunes of his. You know, he has a few real gems. Si tu vois ma mère, obviously, is a great one.
One of the
you
best.
Love that one. Pt.II is a great one. And this is from the time, you know, this is kind of near the end of his life, 57, 58. Yeah, when he was in Paris. And the recording of him playing it is really incredible because he's almost like, he sounds like an aging opera singer, you know. Kind of has all of the character, but is kind of losing the physicality of it. So he, you know, sometimes his notes run out, he runs out of steam halfway through a note, that kind of stuff. But it's just such a beautiful record, and we took it down, and that's the first tune on there.
Amazing. Well, enjoy Passport to Love. We'll see you.
Passport to Paradise.
Passport to Paradise. Sorry.
Passport to Love.
See you soon, guys.
We've had a long weekend, but we are glad to be here. Don't be fooled. No, it's just we spent the whole day playing this other set of music that we're trying to get going with our bigger band. It's kind of like all original stuff. Maybe we should do one of those. Or are we done with those?
Let's play the song about the cat.
I'm quite enjoying myself.
Yeah, this is nice. It's nice to have
Play some tunes. Okay. Let's play.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Passport to Paradise.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so
Is that a joke?
F.
no, we can do it.
Was that?
Just remember how it goes?
Come on, Pete. We've been playing it for years.
There's not going to be any wrong chords, is there?
Right, yeah.
You know what? I did all of those last week, so I think I'm alright.
I called it a lot in the hospital.
Oh, really?
Oh, did you actually?
Yeah, that's it.
Who called that?
Me. I
Oh, good call.
Me, I called it.
It's one of my favorites.
That's good.
One is a proper two. Careless Love. Careless Love. How about Dave Archer on the guitar? have been Smitty's Big Four. This is Dave Archer, Pete Horsfall, and Ferg Island on the double bass. What's that?
Just made it up.
Frankly, I just don't know.
It's an original composition.
Well, it's last tune, but I kind of feel like that B minor waltz.
Does it start on the...
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Start on tonic.
Okay, here we go then.
You want to count it in too?
No.
How fast? Hold on, what's that modern waltz? That Birdie thing. You got the head for that?
Which one do you want to play?
Nah, let's do the
I do
theme.
that other one. I want to play the first note. Okay, let's try again. I played concert A.
On B major.
Ready?
1, 2, 3, Now this is really the last song. How does everybody feel?
Great.
Like they need something mellow or something
Perky.
something perky.
Yeah.
We've had a request for perky.
Perky 51?
Played
That's
it.
pretty good, right?
Yeah, great, good one. Really good. Nice one, Dave.
Thank you.
Well, Perky.
Touch.
Do we do any perky ones?
Yeah, we don't know Perky.
What's that one you learned in Cambridge? You guys play it a lot.
Carolina Shout.
Yeah, is that too much?
Yeah,
That's perky.
We're doing that today.
I could do that.
Forget it.
You would.
That sounds great. It is really good.
It's very perky.
Just a little bit perky.
Sunday party.
Maybe he can sing.
Oh, he could sing something.
Yes.
Perky Pig.
Definitely don't sing anything perky.
Every time it rains, it
And I
rains.
said last night we were playing at Ronnie Scott's till about 3 in the morning. And I was singing this, what's supposed to be like a tear-jerking ballad, about lost love. We finished it, and I thought, thanks for that. In my head, I was like, I hope that was quite moving, And just as I finished the last note, finished was all sat, and the woman in the front row went, "I'll just get over it."
We won't say that to you.
Wait, but that means it was quite moving.
Yeah.
In a way, it must, yeah.
That's the first time your mum came for the gig, isn't it?
Hey.
I'm here all night,
Can't do it next week, so.
What about Riverboat Shuffle?
Play the Riverboat Shuffle.
Let's do the Riverboat Shuffle.
Shall we?
Oh, we don't have to.
Now, if that wasn't perky, I don't know what is.
From the top! 1, 2! Oh yeah. Count it in. The note I was going for was really good. now have music every Sunday, so if you like what you heard, come back next week. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Check. We live?
We're live.
Great. I was just watching it on YouTube.
We're about 30 seconds ahead of everyone, as always.
Hope you're enjoying your drinks out there. I'm a coffee guy. Yeah, once again, we are live at 5, and we were just trying to pin down the date of what that could have been. And I'm thinking, Darcy was sleuthing and saying that people are wearing warm clothes. So I'm thinking it must have been February or March of 2016.
Wow.
Feels like a lifetime ago.
About 4 years ago. Wow.
Yeah.
A lot's changed since then, I imagine.
Yeah.
But the big four are still playing on Sundays. I mean, right now, but not so much. But, we kickstarted at the bar Kansas Smitty's Old School I think must have been May around this time last
Oh
year.
wow! Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and that was, to try and not recapture, but to sort of, bring that lively traditional music of the early 20th century back to Smitty's on a Sunday, which is sort of where things started. I think I just caught there at the end of the set that you said that you had music live 3 days a week at that point.
No way.
So, we came a long way
Jeez.
up to when we had to close the bar doors. We were having music 7 nights a week. So
I know what that is then. That must be the first Sunday that we had music, if you can believe that.
wow.
That's why, yeah, that's why I said, because when we started, we only had music on Wednesdays, and then we added Friday and Saturday. And then the next night we must have added was the Sunday. That's crazy,
That's really cool. And
now we have no nights of music.
Well, we have
really
every night
progressed.
of music. It's just virtually transmitted to everyone's computer screen.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So yeah, I wanted to dive in a little bit more and chat about that music that we were hearing. We sort of touched on this yesterday, how this kind of music is very melody forward, because they were pop tunes essentially, and it was about sort of that lead line that was a recurring motif throughout different sections of the song. So one thing that's quite different to a lot of jazz from the next 20 years moving ahead from this sort of period is that there's a lack of a rhythm section in the way that most people would think with drums and piano. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what the bass and the guitar's role in this sort of ensemble is. What are their responsibilities in playing this kind of music as opposed to, say, what you do in Kansas Smitty's the full size band?
Yeah, it's funny you ask that, because playing that back, just watching it now on YouTube, it's amazing to me when Ferg plays by himself, because he has so much power, and I don't know how to describe it in any other way besides that. And I know that's not necessarily, not a musical term, not necessarily a literal term to describe what's going on, but that's all I can think of when I listen to that. And with that band, it was a band that we did so often, and it was always so hard to find substitute players. And there are very few people, in Dave and Ferg's kind of that people. Tyler yesterday was asking about how Pete and I worked out our parts, and that's what you hear on the surface, and it's there was an amazing rapport there between the two of us, but there if I had to replace myself or Pete, there are more people I'd be able to call than Dave and Ferg, and that's not to say that they're great, incredible virtuoso bass players and guitar players all over London, but the way that those two lock in when they're playing as a rhythm section is, to me, is legendary. It's and so Ferg really, he has this kind of amazing sound where he has these really detached and staccato, really pointed quarter notes that just drive the band. And he does I always say that we're not reenacting. That's the whole point of this music. And when you listen to it, he's doing it. It's not historically accurate, the way he's playing. So if you go back and listen to the concert, he's playing an accented 2 and 4. So if he's playing a walking line, he'll be going
sort of like emulating a snare hit or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a ride cymbal beat, and the snare drum, that you accent on the 2 and the 4 of the beats. And if you listen to people who played bass in the 30s and 40s, they're not doing that. And the reason he does it is because it works. If they had thought to do it, they probably would have done it as well. And then the thing that Dave does, and you brought this up actually when we were listening to it, is that you said, well, he plays the rhythm guitar role, but he also plays the accompanying role that a kind of a piano would play. And then he also plays something that a kind of a third horn would play. And that's also similarly inauthentic. So, you look at a band like that, and the objective is not to be a slave to what was, but to find something that works and play and elevate the playing style.
Absolutely. And I mean, you have 100 more years of music to draw on to influence and to reinterpret that sound and that era of composition.
Absolutely. And yeah, that Passport to Paradise, that's not that's a later song, late 50s. And then you can play any kind of music in those, in any kind of lineup, if you kind of have the concept of arranging it, right? So yeah.
Amazing. And so how did the repertoire for the Big Four evolve over the last few years? So like I mentioned earlier, we were still doing these sorts of gigs, once a month on a Sunday with Kansas Smitty's Old School, and it was more or less the same lineup of the Big Four every time. And you sort of mentioned that you'd learned over hundreds, if not thousands, of tunes over the last 5 to 6 years. What kind of stuff did you steer towards, or was it just building on the sort of tunes that you already knew and trying to approach them in different ways? Like we heard yesterday how you usually played a song in halftime, or you'd speed it up. Like, how do you keep it fresh every time, even 5 years on?
Well, I think that bringing in new music is always the way to keep a band like that fresh. And we had a really busy period where we added a lot of songs, and that was right in the midst of that. That gig is kind of the high point, I think, of where that band got to. It really kind of, it was really busy up until that point. And then, the house band started doing more stuff, and, people's personal projects took precedence, and that's how that happens. But, it's funny because I think about, I was practicing this morning, and there are songs that I go back to time and time again to practice improvising over. And I know that a lot of jazz musicians will do that. You'll take certain chord sequences and you'll just use them over and over again to practice improvising. But in terms of a band, a jazz band, to stay interested, I think, there are only so many arrangements of Bye Bye Blackbird and All the Things You Are and Autumn Leaves that you can do,
Yeah.
So the kind of the kernel of wisdom from that band was that we prioritized bringing in new music over rearranging old music, and kind of, because you can always fix something in a song that you've been playing for 10 years. And bands usually, a rock band will have like their set and they won't add a song for 5 years. That would be it, what they do. But for that band, we kind of realized, actually what we want to do in this band is have the band kind of consume as much material as possible. And so that's what we did. And we would kind of look for stuff that was difficult. We would look for stuff, because there are plenty of simple American songbook tunes out there. And I'm not saying they're simple because they're bad. It's just that they might have 2 sections, and they might have
6 chords.
6 chords or something, similar chord sequences. And we would kind of look for the ones that had more going on, so the band could be more engaged.
Yeah, right. And I mean, one thing that I find with the sort of this kind of music that I hear, and this may be something to delve into a bit more in a future archive at 5 when we have something with some vocals, but the melody lines in this sort of period of music are so distinct and that they're like hummable, they're singable to, you know, the untrained ear, like someone that may not have even heard the song before. It's almost not that you can guess where it's going, but it feels familiar because it feels like it has like a vocal quality to it. And that is, you know, whether it is Billie Holiday singing it or it's Louis Armstrong playing that same, you know, melody on the trumpet. What is the sort of, you know, can you talk a little bit about where, you know, vocals and singing came into this kind of music, and why to, you know, someone like myself, it seems like it disappeared as time sort of moved forward and jazz moved forward?
Yeah, yeah. Does Pete sing on that concert? I don't think he does.
I don't think he does,
Doesn't sing.
but
Yeah.
he did sing a lot in the big four shows, right?
Yeah, yeah. He used to sing. Yeah, he used to sing a lot. I think the interesting thing about, you know, the presence of vocals in that early period, is that they often were secondary to the kind of jazz element, or not the jazz element, but, you know, the instrumental element, let's say. You know, so a lot of even Billie Holiday records will have a chorus of instrumental out front, you know, from the 20s and, well, from the 30s, Billie Holiday, but like, trying to think other people, like even kind of more dance oriented, more pop stuff, like Al Bowley and like,
Fats.
well, Fats. Yeah, you're right. Fats as well. You know, they'll play a lot of the time they'll play a chorus in of instrumental, and then the vocal will come in.
Yeah.
So
Some of those Fats Waller records, like it's almost like a minute and a half into the tune where he'll start singing, and it may only be one section that he repeats the melody that you've heard before, but with lyrics.
yeah, exactly. And that's one of those social norms things that, you know, we don't really know why that was, but that was just the custom. That the now, if you heard a song that came in with a minute of instrumental, you'd be like, what's going on here? That's not a radio hit. And so I think, you know, that then obviously then you have it's a funny arc. It's just a taste thing, isn't it? Because now, so yeah, so you look at that and you say, okay, well, the instrumental had precedence over the vocal in that period of music, and in our band it did as well. And Pete was the only singer in our band, so he would kind of sing when he wanted to. And then obviously vocals come to the foreground, and you have these kind of massive stars of jazz singing and whatever. But now it's interesting because you listen to that State of Jazz playlist, or you look at the kind of trends in jazz now, and they're far away from vocal music. You know, you only have a few people who are kind of, you know, using vocals, and it'll be a feature, or to be something, you know, a one track on an album or something. But there's a massive skew back towards instrumental music, and I think that's because it's maybe easier to dance to, or it's better for festivals or whatever. But it's funny how that stuff goes in fads, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's so interesting too that, you know, even songs that we've heard 100 times with, you know, that we may only know the lyrical versions of, there are versions of those songs that existed before lyrics were even written. Like a lot of those pieces, especially like things that like Ella Fitzgerald was singing in the 40s and stuff, when she, you know, was singing with Duke Ellington's band, that she's like making up the lyrics almost as she went along, which I find so fascinating. And I mean, you might be able to, you know, let me know if I'm on the wrong track here, but to me it sounds like these singers, like, you know, Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, like their heroes were horn players, and they're almost emulating their, you know, their timbre and their sort of melodies and the way that they approach the rhythm of their singing off the way that, you know, Louis Armstrong was playing trumpet, or, you know, the way that Fats had composed a, you know, sort of like a little melody lick on the piano. Am I wrong in saying that, or is that?
Yeah, I mean that's yeah. I mean, Billie Holiday is so influenced by Louis Armstrong. It's amazing when you think about when you kind of put them side by side and think about it. And there's some footage of them, and they were I think they were in the same movie at some point. there's a film of them together in the same frame, and she was really definitely a big fan. I mean, so many people were influenced by Louis, and then obviously Ella Fitzgerald is influenced by the beboppers, you know.
Yeah.
Dizzy Gillespie, she was married to Ray Brown, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, there is that that emulation for sure, and it's funny how it's reciprocated though, because you think about somebody like a Louis Armstrong or a Sidney Bechet, and they were really into opera. So
Right.
it's kind of just passing the ball back and forth between what's, you know, it's a you know, the best balance is somewhere in between. You know, if you can achieve instrumental virtuosity in your voice, that's great. If you can achieve a vocal quality on your instrument, that's also going to be great. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, we could sit and talk about this stuff all day, but I'm sure that there are plenty of other performances which we can pick out little things and sort of dig into. So we might leave it there for today. Do you want to tell the people where they can support us at the moment, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, great. So you've been listening to Live at 5. Thanks again for tuning in. And be sure to subscribe to this channel and click on the link in our bio to find out where you can donate, support these podcasts, and also where you can find a playlist that we've put together to kind of encapsulate all of the music that we've touched on today and in our previous episodes. So we hope you have a great Saturday, and we'll be back tomorrow with a really great friend of mine and one of my favorite saxophonist and musicians in the world, and his name's Eddie Barbash, and he'll be joining us from New York. So
Transatlantic show.
Yeah. Be sure to tune in. So we'll see you there. Thanks so much. Thanks, Darce.
Thanks, G. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Thanks again for listening to Live at 5. Remember to subscribe to this channel and click on the link in the description to see where you can donate, sign up for a Smitty's membership, or buy our records and merch. See you tomorrow. Thanks again.